information about copper or
Notice
Got
notice
it.
was posted on the 17th according to statutory requirements.
Okay, all right. Okay, roll call. Tom Pensick, Chairman.
Steve Abio.
Susan Wolf,
I'm not on the committee.
No.
Okay.
No. Barbara Carey,
And
I
Leslie,
thought I was on the.
you are.
You are.
Leslie Jacobs.
and John, and then and Roger is here.
Roger,
So-
yep, I'm here on the video.
Okay, all right. Any other members of the committee? Okay,
John West, oh, John's gonna be late.
okay. John West's gonna be late. Okay, all right. So I know there was this approval of minutes of September 9th. Any questions there?
They were all
They were
distributed.
distributed to the committee. Yeah.
No.
I'll move they be approved.
Okay,
A second.
all right.
That's
Okay,
September 9th, yes.
yeah, okay. So, all right.
September 19th.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, so basically, the next thing to talk about are the budget amendments due to insurance rate increases. And John has this form here with we're gonna need about 308,000 or so to cover this year and what we anticipate for next year's insurance payments. Added on what we already budgeted for. We budgeted 640,000 for the insurance, and it came in at 788,000. Okay, I think you guys know that from the last meeting, right? So, and then we're looking at various ways to pay for it, I guess, and that's where the different options come in, right? So, okay, most people at the meeting, right, yesterday, I presume? So, okay, all right. Okay, so, I believe there was 3 items that were discussed yesterday with the 210 or so to paid, or, John, you would.
Yeah, if we were to, just to go over number 1, the calculations you have in front of you, but number 2 are true needs. We were advised again, for those of you who heard yesterday, to collect a 28% increase, which would have equated to $640,000. We did put that in the in the budget. However, with the increase being much more than 28%, actually 60%, to round numbers off, this year's package came in at 694,000.
700.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
794,000, which is a shortfall of $154,000.
Yep.
So there has to be, number 1, a repayment of that. Number 2, to have a minimum next year of the 794,000. We'd have to add that to the collection of this year,
Right.
meaning that we need a minimum of $308,000
Yeah,
to not only satisfy this year's premium, but ensure we have a minimum of this year's premium available next
for next year. yeah.
March.
I'm on Zoom.
Pardon? Somebody's got double up money. Somebody's got it doubled.
Okay,
They're on Zoom twice.
So that.
Okay, we should be all right.
well, there's
Okay.
2 Chris Perry's.
So the additional
Yeah.
154, is that?
One of them doesn't look like me.
For January, February, March, or what is that?
Well, that
Exactly.
additional 154 is the cash we need
Okay,
to pay the bill.
So,
okay, right, that's the first one. And
The
then
second
there's a
one
Second one,
is to make sure we have that amount, because we're only collecting 640,000 in this budget this year coming up.
right,
So we need that 154 for next year's budget to have it there available. So we don't have to have another special meeting.
Another meeting
special
like this, in
assessment,
other words.
Another emergency, you name it.
we have to assume that the bill that will come in next March, 2024 will be the same.
We're
at
hopeful,
794.
but probably
we
not.
haven't budgeted the other 640 for next year
Oh,
yet,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you're just looking for the 3 months, right?
No,
No,
we
the
budgeted
640 is in this year's
The
budget.
640
Okay.
is budgeted.
But you're
Yes,
paying
through
now.
March.
We figure we're gonna need at least 793, not anything less,
Right.
and probably more.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
What happens is come March 7th, our insurance fund that currently is 640 will be 0. And so we'll be using all of that money that we've collected, plus we have to come up with the 154 to pay the bill, which we're gonna talk about in a minute, how we're gonna get that. And then, of course, by the time next March 7th comes around, what we have in this current budget, we'll have 640. That's the reason we needed another 154 to match.
I know our budget year has been year to year, but it doesn't have to be year to year.
We're fortunate, and well, it doesn't have to, but it's the same. We're still collecting for next year.
No, but if we knew what that number was, we
Well,
would be a lot more
well,
accurate going into writing the budget.
So true. I mean,
but-
it used to be well, it used to be, it doesn't count anymore, but it used to be 60, 70 days in advance, you would have your premium notice. Then they promised no later than 30. We got it day before yesterday, which is less than 20 days before.
Yeah,
And that's because the underwriters wait till the last second.
My previous association, they gave us the bill 15 days.
And we got about 18 days on this one, you know?
isn't that nice? It's almost $1 million and they give you a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
And a gigantic increase.
So we did you know, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to go through anything like yesterday, but meaning the fact that we have to pay this bill, we can't undervalue. Our documents don't allow us to undervalue. I don't think the residents want to undervalue. That's the only way to reduce the premiums whatsoever. In other words, all perils would be insured to $92 million, but wind wouldn't. And in the conversation Steve and I had with the agents and whatever, hey, if we drop it down to 75 million, it's still a pretty good coverage. Maybe we can live with that, even though the documents don't allow it. But to get it down even $12,000 in premium, we have to reduce the value of coverage down to 10 million, which is ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's totally ridiculous.
Well, and then when I was trying to research your words fully funded, and you were saying that only 3% of the condos in Florida are fully funded.
Well,
And
that
so,
could be
but
an accurate
meantime,
figure.
as we're talking to people that live here and we're comparing, like, well, look at what we're getting for our money. And, you know, these other people are spending more.
Yeah.
Those other people are gonna be spending a hell of a lot
Oh,
more.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Because after that condo fell down in Miami, the Senate or House or whoever, they changed the rules and now everybody has to be fully funded by the end of December
2025.
2024.
Yes.
That's
So how are those other condo units going to come up with
Yeah.
$1 million in a year's time, year and a half's time?
Yeah, 'cause I know
Well, quite frankly, it's going to be an ambitious assignment. Will it all get there? No, but it's sooner or later it will. And that means that sooner or later, people will experience what full funding is.
Well, because my other thing is like if only 3% are fully funded, why do we have to be fully funded? I mean, we could be partially funded, but the answer is no, we have to be fully funded in a year anyway, so don't even go down that road.
We ended up being ahead of the game.
When we need new roofs, you don't pay a nickel. When Wildewood 2 just got February, $3,850 assessment per unit for new roof.
But yes,
Current standards require funding still. It's just the way it's written. It's written that without, if you must fully fund unless the owners vote to do differently.
I
And
know,
so
but
many
they've
associations
taken that
just do
out.
that. But that's coming out. But I mean, that's why so many could. I mean,
Yeah.
they still recommend full funding.
The
yeah,
point
but
here,
now
though,
they're taking out that they can't vote it out. They have to.
right.
be fully
But that hasn't, that's
That's
there,
your
but it doesn't
reserves.
mean that, pardon?
That's your reserves. They
Yeah,
have to be
We're
full
talking
funded.
reserves.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
talking
that, the
reserves.
Not
fully
insurance.
funded means.
Oh, no,
the
no.
roads,
Not-
No, but that's almost
No,
zero.
but our documents require us to be insured for full value.
But the state law refers to
The
new
state law says adequate.
The new state law that was just passed as a result of the collapse is referring to one, reserves, and two, the inspection that now has to be done.
Yeah, has nothing of impact on us whatsoever.
Right,
We're
because we're
two-story.
not.
They
three-story.
say someday it may. Somebody's got to be muted. Anyway, You're right. That's a different issue.
That's a different issue.
We're not-
And yes, we are to the max fully funded, meaning we fully fund everything that we conceive of. And we've got a 20-year plan where we're contributing $500,000 a year for the next 20 years to ensure that we do what we're going to do as far as buildings, roofs, and what have you. We're fortunate to have structures that are concrete with flat roofs. Doesn't mean we won't have issues, but it does mean that we're in much better shape than most.
Excuse me, John, have we ever filed a claim on wind?
No,
No, and we
very
didn't-
good point.
We didn't file a claim after Ian, right? Because we used our own funding for that, right?
Same with Irma.
It was
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
under the deductible. I mean,
Right,
our,
yeah, right,
you
yeah,
know, our
right,
building
yeah.
repairs under Irma was about 45,000.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't even kick close.
Mhm.
And then that was from tree penetration. The majority in this community, after storms are cleanup,
Yeah,
which are
right,
not
yeah,
covered.
right, yeah.
25 years ago, you were covered for that kind of stuff. But when State Farm and Northwest and all those other pulled out, they took their quote unquote flora and fauna portions out of the
Oh, well.
insurance coverage.
So I guess can we get back on the topic of what we need to do to get this shortfall, I guess?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On how we're gonna do this? Is it the desire we have certain periods here, we're gonna pay a HOA fee and, or maintenance fee, whatever you wanna call it. We're gonna pay it in July, October, January, and then again in April next year. So there's 4 quarters.
Now, April will not be part of this.
Right,
Okay,
it would
so
be
April-
for 2025.
So we wanna have the full, whatever that number is,
By-
$794 in hand as of the first week of January.
Right, after January payments,
Okay.
yes.
Now, on the additional 153 this year, are we trying to have that paid off, if you want to use that term, by October or January?
It will be paid off no, it'll be paid off by January. In other words,
December
we're bringing in,
31st.
we're bringing in, say, 350,000. So all we're getting is like, what, 115,000 a quarter.
No, it'll be less than that, but,
Yeah, 150, to bring in 350.
117,180
Yeah,
per quarter.
It's 500,000 a year.
but that would be 2
Yeah.
quarters. So, I mean,
no,
basically.
3.
Yeah.
We have 3.
Yeah, but I'm just
We're
saying.
gonna-
to
we're
pay
gonna
off
bring
the-
in
To
350.
pay off the shortfall. is approximately what
Oh,
we're
no,
looking at.
we're talking 2 things.
Yeah, I know. but-
Yeah. To bring in what we need, we're talking about bringing in $350,000 to round it off, okay? 350 divided by 3 means about, like Steve said, 117 a
Okay.
quarter.
Why 350? Is that to cover some interest?
Well, it was initially thought to cover interest until we're going to play around with something else, but also is for any potential increase.
Okay.
Minimally, but it's there.
We
Yeah.
need 308, we're
And
gonna have
experience-
350, so
yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
have
Experience
40,000,
has shown we probably should.
39,000 extra, just in case next year's goes up.
Okay, so as of January, first week of January 24, we'll be in good shape if
We
we
should
do
have
this. Now,
794,000.
we don't know what's gonna happen
Right.
with the insurance premium going forward. Now,
Oh, yes, we do. No,
well,
Well, we know it's going up.
okay. So at the $70 on average increase, and that's about what that's gonna work out to
Mhm.
per.
Yeah, $70 a month.
Now, come April next year, we don't need that $70.
Oh,
We've
yes,
paid,
you do.
no, we don't. We've paid off the 153.
But we
for
need
this
that to
year.
cover the
We'll
2025.
have to have a new
Okay.
That's
calculator.
that's what we're
Okay,
saying.
but
No,
no.
Gus, you're right, Gus. What happens is the budget committee near the end of this year will determine what they need for the following year, and it may needed it or may not be needed. But right now, it's not in there for sure by any means.
Just
It's only
want you
for
to
3
understand,
quarters.
We're talking about a $48
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
per month.
But if the fees are the same the year after, then of course the 70 stays
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're right
Well,
there.
and the insurance rates, I mean, how much have they gone up each year? I mean, because they are going up, like, it was
Well,
like 15%.
If you had to take a look at
20%,
that thing there,
28%.
actually, from 2016 to 2019, they actually decreased a little bit. and then they got shot.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, the previous year was a 25% or something.
We
like
had,
that.
we had 28% when they told us 18, and now they told us 28 this year, and it was 60.
It was almost double what
Yeah.
they project.
Yeah.
Can I just ask people who are going to make a comment to state your name and your address so that we can have it for the record? Thank you.
I have a question. I'm Cindy. I live at 583 Lakeside. My husband and I bought at the end of season last year. We're snowbirds from Minnesota. So I'm new to this whole process. I've never owned a condo before. I'm wondering, and this is probably very naive of me, but can we use any of the large reserve to pay for any of this? No.
All right, let's say we're going to address that question in a different manner, but the first answer is no.
Okay.
Statutes do not allow you to borrow from the reserves or take money from the reserves unless owners approve. It's been proven that blanket approval to move funds doesn't work out very well. The question that we were asking earlier that we're not going to ask at the annual meeting was, can we take interest earned and move it to the operating, which is a whole lot less. In other words, it might be 50,000 instead of 2 million. So the question will come to the owners pretty soon, since we have an aggressive investment policy that some monies might be moved, but the reserve, the pot, can't be touched. Another question?
So on that question.
Well, she's got more.
She's got more.
Okay. I had one other thought, or question. So the 70 that we're proposing is in addition to, didn't we just have an increase
We did.
Yes.
of
Mhm.
40? So it would be on top of that.
Yes.
And that increase was to get it up to 640, which we thought was going to be, you know.
So I was at the meeting yesterday and I thought it was very informative. I'm wondering, as far as the getting to our legislature, could we petition? Would that be easier for people to have a petition?
It won't
Is
hurt to
that
have a
effective?
petition, but the volume is always better. In other words, getting one with 400 signatures is somewhat less meaningful to somebody with 400 individual letters to go through. Just kind of the numbers.
Were you drafting like a
Yeah,
suggestion?
I'm in the process of doing that. Chris did a good one. Chris, that was an excellent one you sent me yesterday.
Yeah.
Very concise, and we're going to incorporate
Well,
that.
Can I ask, are you going to include something about mandating the underwriters give so many days advance
I think that
notice
should,
rather than
that should be part of the
last
request.
15 days?
But, that's the biggest issue in the world. We can't prepare. So, yeah, that's a good point.
I'm wondering, on that letter, I'm wondering if we can have copies available here so people.
We're going to
can
send
look
it
and-
to everybody.
Well,
Yeah, we're going to have copies available for it. You can paraphrase
I
it.
would
use
make a
it.
request too, that if you know people living in other associations do the same thing. Because,
Yeah,
just
it's not
us,
just
just 500
us.
letters are not gonna do very much, but you start having multiple, like thousands of letters, that might get some results. I don't know, I'd just be my bet, but, that would be my suggestion, is to try to talk, if you must have friends who live in other condos,
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
And John's a member of different associations, so he probably knows people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but in many places, including, I sit on the board of a major one in Orlando. That I know what we're going to do there. Punt.
Can I add a point?
Go ahead.
Hi,
Yep.
this is Tiffany Conklin in 610 Woodlawn. About sending letters. I totally support this effort, but I would encourage people to maybe add your own thoughts to the letter or put the letter into your own writing, because I know that when I've sent letters to legislature in the past, sometimes they are not taken seriously if it's the same word for word letter that they receive over and over again. They kind of just regard it as like, these are bots, this is spam. They when it's individualized, I think it holds some extra impact. So to avoid that happening, I just thought I'd add that it might be a good idea to put some personalization onto it. Thank you.
using the term bots and whatever is very upscale. That's really great. Tiffany.
We're living in the 2020s now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, she's right. She's right.
Okay.
As a
John?
matter of fact, it was suggested yesterday also that every one of these officials have local offices. And if you
Yes.
had the time or the energy to swing by, probably even has more impact. Whether
True.
they're there or not, their secretary knows they're always open.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Somebody said,
John, John, I heard from
Catherine, is that
someone
you?
in the office of Jim Boyd
Yeah,
in response to my letter.
already. What did they say?
Yeah, so I forwarded it to you so you could see what it said.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay. They're going to reduce fees immediately? Is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
She's good.
Okay.
I have a question or a comment. Mary Ann Carpowitz, 666 Woodlawn. I know. 666. I guess I'm a little confused, and I just want to clarify that the 210 equals the 70 per month. It's not in
Yes.
addition to the
No,
70 per month.
That's,
The question I have is this carved in stone, or is there a possibility of it still being assessed and having the HOA stay lower?
Don't think, I mean, no,
Well-
well, to ensure that we have the monies necessary for this payment, carved in stone is 154, yeah,
No,
Is
my
154,000.
question, John, is the 210 equals the 70, right?
yes.
So speaking as I'm in fixed income, it's a little bit easier for me to pay the assessment, get it over with, and then move on with my life for the rest of the year. And then maybe, hopefully, we wouldn't even need an additional 70. We probably will, but
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
well, that's the thing of it is, if you wish to prepay anything, you can always do
Well,
that.
my point is that that's an operating expense. You should not use special assessments for an operating expense. That's my opinion.
Well, but I mean, right, so you
Yeah.
call it what it is
Yeah.
an increase in fees out of
Yeah.
pocket, whatever you want to,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call the duck is a duck.
The other thing I worry about is, if I chose to sell my home in the next year because I can't stay, the HOA fees are going to scare people away the higher they are.
True. However, when a community has but when a community has a record of a lot of special assessments, it's
That
probably
shows a
even
bad
worse
budget.
than higher maintenance
Yeah.
fees.
Yes, I agree.
You know.
And we just had a special assessment last year.
Right.
So.
But we are paying somewhat less. Now, our average is going to be, what did we say, about $1,430 for insurance per unit, plus or minus, because you have different square footage.
Right.
Next door is what, 2,200?
21 something.
And so we are still lower within the community. And part of the
And our
issue
maintenance
is
fees are
yeah.
lower.
you
Even
sell
with the
and you buy
increase.
inflated places elsewhere.
Mhm.
Their fees aren't going to come down because their insurance rates are just as high.
Yeah.
And if you go try and look at some of the new rental apartments, single bedrooms are 2,500.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So, I mean, it's tough,
Yeah.
tough
I
call.
think one other thing to make sure that, if you ever did do this, is the reserves. That's something you see nowhere. I mean,
That-
we are in great shape. If it weren't for this insurance situation, we are, fully funded all the way through. So without insurance, I doubt that we would see any increases except some nominal ones.
I mean, you think about it.
Well, bottom line is that if we didn't have an increase in insurance, it would flatline all of our other expenses, including giving the employees a raise this year for the first time in 3 years. The fees are the same. I mean, it's our only increases we're looking at is insurance driven.
Yeah, and the cable, but that's.
Can I make a comment? We're under 3 stories in this building. Any building in Florida that's 4 stories and above is going to be, their condo fees are going to be doubling and
Yeah,
tripling.
well, I realize that.
This is going to be the lowest increase in condos
Yeah.
in the state because we're under 3 stories.
Well, and then comparing them to the 97% that are going to have sudden refunds
Yeah.
over the next few
There's a
years,
new
it's kind
building.
of like, oh my
There's a new
goodness.
building in Miami that because of the collapse, they come in and the value of the property is 50 million. They come in and they said they needed 40 million in reconstruction, 200,000 per unit. is what the assessment's gonna be.
Oh,
Per
Yeah,
unit.
basically.
You're gonna see a lot of that.
You're gonna see a lot of that with this new engineering studies.
Yeah, but as far as, real estate goes, our numbers with that are still gonna be lower. And it's gonna be much lower compared to the 97% that all of a sudden have to come up with reserves.
True. But it's all relative to those of us, quote unquote, on fixed incomes too, no matter what. It may be cheaper to live here than somewhere else, but it may be still too expensive for my
Well, yeah,
income.
there's the
purpose.
campground on the corner, but.
I can show you pictures, actually, yeah. Right.
Location, view of water,
No insurance over there,
easy access to the beach.
Easy access to the shower at the pool. So,
All right.
we didn't talk about the additional information about, since we only have $640,000, where are we going to get the other 158 on March 7th? John,
I don't know if we've talked to our lawyer or whatever about it.
We have.
I can see no reason why we could not loan ourselves that money.
not reserve money,
Not
You
reserved.
do it from the reserve.
Okay.
but, all right, Sue sent me an email last night
Yes.
that was,
Good idea.
that sparked some very good conversation. Sue said, what, Sue Wolf, sitting right over here. Yeah, Sue Wolf, right over here, said, why can't we take it from reserve monies we're collecting for reserves, but haven't put it in the reserve fund yet?
Right,
So it's
And-
not in the reserves
Yeah.
yet.
right,
So
yeah,
the-
yeah. Right.
Potentially
Well, the problem,
change the budget.
the
Yeah.
only- the only
So
problem
that,
is,
the only problem is that we've predicated a budget that told the owners we're gonna put $500,000 into the reserve fund this year. So partially it's covered, but we didn't tell the owners that we were gonna, well, the practice is we put 125 a quarter in as the money comes in.
Okay.
We don't have to.
We don't have to do that.
right away,
As long as we contribute $500,000 to the reserves by the end of the year,
right,
we can take the money earmarked for reserves and pay off the shortfall where we won't have to borrow.
Yeah.
We won't have to borrow money at 8%, which is what the bank wants.
Okay, so that's 125 that you
Yeah.
can,
but the trouble is,
And
I
we'll-
believe you already put the money in for this quarter.
This quarter, but I mean, so we're gonna be really tight, but we still, we'll have 125 coming in April 1.
April 1.
So we'll be a little short for the end of the month type of thing.
Right.
But then as the owners pay, we'll pay it back and it'll go in by the end of the year. So at least we'll save,
Interest.
you know,
8%
Rather than
Yeah.
borrow it.
yeah,
well,
10%.
is the budget in stone? I mean, isn't this meeting basically to try to analyze the budget? Can we
Well, we're gonna propose an amendment.
rewrite it, re-propose it and simply, write it with, because,
We don't know. No, the 500,000 should be in stone because then you won't be fully funded. That has to go in this year. We promised the owners that we're fully funded. We're not having a vote for shortfall. All we're doing is contributing it maybe on a later date
Right.
than we would normally put it in.
What about, I assume she meant other operating funds. Reassess what's in the budget for the operating.
Don't forget
funds.
that this, and you were involved, but I'm not saying that you did not, I know you understand it. Everything else was zero-based budget.
Right.
So anything else would have to be either cut employees or
Is there anything we
something else. I mean,
defer?
in other words, every committee made its case,
Yeah.
as you recall, for building this.
Yeah,
And
that's,
then the board went over it
Yeah.
and said, okay, we'll accept it, or the committee went over it, or we won't accept it. And you took some stuff out. So it'd be very hard to move any other funds.
Okay, I'm just like for educational purposes.
well, I
like,
mean, there's
putting this
I
out
don't know if
there.
there's a possibility to defer something till, let's say, Q3. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there is.
Yeah, we can delay tree trimming.
Is there
I mean, there's
anything in there
something.
for buying new equipment that we could maybe delay a year?
That
or-
wasn't that much in that budget, if I remember. I don't,
So,
another big ticket item is our water. Can we get those little blue pills and have everyone check to make sure that their toilets aren't
There-
leaking or whatever? Because if we could get that water bill down $100,000,
well, we
there's.
have done, but there are
I
two
know, but-
definitions of blue pills. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
There's no men in my house.
So you're talking about showering with a friend? No, we have massive reductions in our water usage. We have, yeah. But you're right, but that's paid on a monthly basis, so.
Okay,
I
well,
mean,
yeah,
but tree
I'm just
trimming-
trying to look
all
at
right.
some places that we have in the operating budget that we can maybe find some potential savings.
Well,
And
we
I
have,
know-
$48,000 in the tree trimming budget, okay? We've already used 4,000 to do these taking out some dead trees and what have you. I'm not saying we don't need to spend the money, but that's another place where instead of July, we could do it in October. And thereby take some of the pressure off of our cash flow.
I mean, you're only looking at $12,000 each quarter, right?
Yeah, well, I know, but
And
I mean,
I'm in
it's-
favor of that, because in the summertime, we can use as much shade as we can get, so tree trimming in the fall is a lot nicer.
Hurricanes too.
but we try to
I
do
like
it.
that idea, Sue.
Yeah, John, I know that Tiffany and I both think that we don't need to trim some of our palm trees at all. So I really think that we could easily save $10,000 or more by simply not trimming some of our sable palms, our cabbage palms.
Yeah, cutting out the cabbage palms would save like 75% of the bill.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And we
as
think that's a very potential savings.
as I see it, the way we've worked this out is, I don't think we have to deal with the budget as much as funding the budget based on this process of the potential of using that 125 and give it back later at a later date, as opposed to, I think our budget's pretty good.
How you doing?